Ready? Now? We're ready. Good morning and welcome to Oasis. My name is Mark and I'll be your MC for today. I'm pleased to welcome those here in our community center and those joining here on Facebook Live and YouTube to the Kansas City Oasis. Since 2014, Oasis has been the premier secular alternative to faith-based communities. We welcome all, regardless of beliefs or non-belief, race, gender, sexual orientation, identity, or any other trait. We feel the human experience is better when it is shared, and we are so pleased that you have chosen to share it with us this morning. We gather around our Oasis 5 core values. People are more important than beliefs. Reality is known through reason. Human hands solve human problems. Meaning comes from making a difference. Be accepting and be accepted. You can find out more at kcoasis.org/ourphilosophy. We have a great program for you today. Our featured speaker is Barry Crow, Sexuality and Gender Identity. We have our musical guest, ffortissiMO. They're all here, well, not all of them, but a bunch of them. Our community moment this morning will be Sara Geelan, and she's going to share our 2025 strategic plan. Exciting, yeah. All right, I really didn't expect that much enthusiasm about that, but that's good. All right, and I'm going to introduce ffortissiMO. Am I saying that right? FfortissiMO? All right. As our musicians, well, they're already on stage. I'll let you know that ffortissiMO are a group of local musicians who come from different backgrounds with one common passion for making music. ffortissiMO strives to provide local or social and supportive opportunities for LGBTQAI+ adults in the Kansas City area and to participate and perform music with a broad appeal for a wide variety of audiences. They don't have a Venmo, but there is a donate link on the website or this QR code up here. You can reach out and tip them there. We also have a cash tip jar down here. So please give a warm Oasis welcome to ffortissiMO. It's me. It's me. That was wonderful. That was very nice. I do have a quick story, so if it's okay. So I was in the band in junior high. I played the trumpet, but I never really learned how to play the trumpet, and the band teacher was like, "Why are you even here?" I was like, "Because I like the music. I just want to be in the music." And so he let me stay, and he's like, "But you cannot blow in it when we have concerts." So he's like, "Just fake it." And he gave me a C for like all 3 years. And it turns out that was the highest grade I ever received in junior high. So I was like, but I do love that music. Maybe can I join you guys if I don't blow in it? Would that be all right? Well, we have some birthdays. Well, we have one birthday, Kim DeRhodes. Happy birthday, Kim. Anybody else have any birthdays or things they would like to celebrate or let us know about? All right. Oh, here we have Tia Higby is our volunteer of the week. Yeah, Tia. She does a lot of the building maintenance around here. If you've seen the beautiful new flooring in the basement, thank her for the hard work. Here she is keeping everything going at our potluck last week. Tia takes on tasks without being asked and often does the jobs that others neglect. People like her make Kansas City Oasis possible. Yeah. So she set the bar, people. Anybody want to try to take her out, you can just volunteer. Oh, we want to say thank you and give a big round of applause to Russell Conrad, who is leaving his post as an Oasis board member. He helped support the efforts towards the transition from Zoom to in-person to our new home and has provided excellent management of the greeting and ambassador teams and preparation for the Sunday gatherings. If, like me, you feel welcome coming in the doors of Oasis, know that he had a part of that, and feel free to say thank you to him. So thank you very much, Russell. Where are you, Russ? Is he? Oh, here he is right here. Stand up, stand up. Come on, Russ, stand up. There he goes. Thank you so much, Russ. We have Micah Ministry. Micah Ministry serves hundreds of people a meal on Monday evenings from 5:15 to 7:15. They help anyone regardless of race, gender, religious, or non-religious affiliation, sex and sexual orientation, or any other trait. Come join us in helping our less fortunate neighbors. You can sign up for Micah Ministries on their Facebook page. All right, if you like music and food, of course you do, so join us at next Tuesday, next Tuesday, the 15th at BB's Lawnside Barbecue for food and enjoy the great blues music of Nick Schneblin. I practiced that name, but. This Thursday, April 17th, bring your favorite board games and a snack to share. Let's roll the dice, shuffle the cards, and make some great memories together. The host point of contact is Ethan. Yay, Ethan! Here's his email address. You can see it up there. Oh, is it up there? It's not up there. I'm going to give it to you then. His email is Ethan, I'll just spell it, ETHANTHEKIWI, on Facebook Messenger. Okay, here's a good one. Join us in volunteering at the Special Olympics for KC Metro Area Spring Games on Saturday, April 26th. This is their biggest track meet of the year. Volunteers will be assigned to various events, such as running, jumping, throwing events, and may also be asked to help with check-in, opening ceremonies, awards, or water crew. Training and a t-shirt will be provided by the Special Olympics of Missouri. please RSVP on the Facebook event and see more info there on kcoasis.org. Oh, it looks like they want us to run and throw things. I'm out. All right, on Monday, April 28th, you can join us to watch and sing along to our favorite musicals. Bring your own food and drink and a comfy seating. We will start the movie at 6 p.m. This month is Hello, Dolly. Yeah. Man, we got a lot of stuff going on. Let's see, join us on Wednesday, April 30th at 6 p.m. for the Rockstar Bingo at Gale's Public House. It is played on the phone. Listen to the song clips, mark them on your bingo card, and win prizes. Gale's will donate $1 per player per round to Cleaver Little Sports for LGBTQ+. Athletes and allies, there is a $5 happy hour food and drink while you play. All right, that brings us to our community moment this week, which will be Sara Geelan. She's going to talk to us about the 2025 Strategic Plan for Oasis. I'm sorry, it says Madam President. I just wanted to make sure.
It's supposed to be acting president. No. So, good morning, Kansas City Oasis. I'm going to talk about some really very interesting things. I'm pretty excited that Jonna's here because I thought she was just here for Oasis, and then come to find out, what? And Sharon's here too. She wanted me to mention that. All right, so where's Jason? Do I just click this thing? Oh, perfect. Okay, so we had a meeting a while back with all of the committee members to go over the strategic plan for 2025. And I'm going to try to go through this quickly because it's not terribly exciting, but I wanted everybody to know what we're working on. So these are the different committees. You can see merchandise has their goals for 2025, and then on the side it has the dates that we're hoping those to be completed by. So order additional shirts, stickers, new t-shirts, new designs, finish organizations of new rolling cabinets, coffee mugs and hats, which that's pretty exciting. She got some demos, and they were pretty cool. Somebody won them in the auction, which was not me. And finished the organization of the merch upstairs and the inventory on the website, which actually they've done pretty well at that. We're kind of pretty good on what we have now, but we're going to be getting more things. So look forward to that. We're going to be having a lot more merch to choose from. I know people are sick of the stuff that we have already. Everybody has pretty much all of it. This is a shirt that everybody always wants that came a million years ago for a one-time deal, and we don't have it. But it's cool, right? Also, if you want other merch that we don't have, if you check the Oasis Network Board website, they have some other designs that you might be interested in. So there's that. Philanthropy. So they've added a couple people to the committee to work on philanthropy projects. We're pretty good at making sure that we have at least something every month. On fifth Sunday, we always do something here, but we also do a lot of things outside. So a lot of that to just keeping up with the things that we already do, and more blood drive activities, and a spreadsheet to track and volunteer opportunities and ideas for future events. So that came up with a lot of the two or three people that added on to that committee. It was Julie Massler doing it by herself. So now we've got some help on that, and it's going to be a lot more things. I will say that we do have difficulty getting people to show up for these philanthropy events, which we think are pretty important. So try to, if you see some of those, volunteer for those if you can. Speaking of which, Micah Ministries that we have an ongoing relationship with, our big day for them is second Monday of the month, which is tomorrow. So if you can volunteer at Micah tomorrow, that's great. Just show it. The sign up is really not that necessary, but make sure that you're there between 5:30. There are Oasis members that work there every single Monday, so just go and wander in and say, hey, I'm looking for somebody from Oasis, and you'll be pointed to somebody who can help you out. AV, this is the lofty goals of AV. As you know, they posted a fundraiser for a laptop, and got almost all the money that they need for that, so that's still on the board. They still need a little bit more. But, so these are things that I don't really understand, but research new ceiling mounted projector, research tablet, train sound backup, OBS training documents, and weekend ticketed events for fundraising. So those are the goals for AV. Children's program. Create a childcare flyer that is funny, inviting, so that more people know about childcare. I think people find out kind of when they get here or if they ask ahead of time, but childcare is always available. They are background checked, and so they want to add a monthly theme day to encourage community participation, like tie-dye day or bow tie day or whatever, where the community and the kids. Tie-dye day, which we've done actually for JJ at one point. Inventory existing supplies, because the closets back there are overflowing with donations. So they're gonna try to start utilizing some of those and get rid of, paring those down a bit. Also, there were some ideas for Spanish classes, dressing up, participating in Dia de los Muertos, different things like that. So planning, instead of it just being free play, having some kind of monthly scheduled event. Community moments, that's kind of something that just takes care of itself. So right now, Julie Manning is in charge of that, right? But doesn't want to be, so we're going to try to pawn that off on somebody else. But community moments is just not usually as boring as this, but just anything that you want to talk about, books, what you've done, where you've been, vacations, whatever. You can do whatever you want. And there is an online sign up if you ever want to do that. So that committee's kind of just doing its own thing. Sunday programming, also just kind of doing its own thing. Denise takes care of all of the Sunday presenters. If you have any suggestions ever for somebody that you would think would be a good speaker, send those to Denise Decker, and she will vet them and watch them and see that, if they are good presenters, unlike myself, and just maintain this current level. There's a lot of conversation that has to come between AV, music, presenters to make sure we don't have some upbeat, say, ffortissiMO playing, and then we have, a thing on the Holocaust, so they have to kind of talk about, so kind of keep on the same page. Social events. So we try to have at least 2 social events a month, one kid-friendly, one not kid-friendly, and we've actually had quite a few more. Every year we're gonna plan a camp out float trip, and we've not done that for 3 years. So it's always on this strategic plan, it just doesn't always happen. Fundraising. So fundraising, as I've explained before, is very important. We are kind of upside down on our monthly bills, so it's kind of important. It's very important that we start doing more fundraising activities in addition to renting the building out for event space. So if you know anybody that needs an event space, or you're on a group and somebody's like, yeah, I'm looking for someplace where I can rent for a birthday party or whatever, plug us. If you go onto our regular website, at the bottom, there's a link that says rent our space that you can copy and paste on anything that you want and just share it away. So yeah, these are basically just ideas that they came up with, different fundraising activities that we're going to try to accomplish. And recurring donors is the easiest way for us to be able to count on the money that we get. So if you're able to even $5, if you're able to do a recurring donation of $5, that's money that goes into, like when we were trying to rent a building, they want to know what your income is. And the only way that we can actually justify that is from our recurring donors, because we can't just go, well, last week we got, $500 in cash, which we've never got $500 in cash, but you know what I'm saying. So recurring donors is really, really helpful, even if it's not that much money. Community outreach. We've got a lot of things that we want to do. So I think all of the parades and that kind of thing are taken care of. But if you know of a festival or something like that you think Oasis would be a good place organization to table there, let us know. One of the problems that we have trying to find places to table is they want us to be either artists or a business, and so we kind of fit into neither one of those categories. There's occasionally some that will take 501c3s like Pride and those, but if you know of any others that you can think, some of them are really expensive, like we couldn't do Boulevardia because we couldn't afford it. There's another one that's really expensive that we couldn't afford, but anyway, if you have any ideas, like if you live somewhere where they have, I think Brookside has some things, and you've seen other organizations there, let us know, because we can't keep track of all of them. So we're going to print more cards. We're going to try to get you guys to take some of these cards and put them up, like if you're at a coffee shop or you're at a pizza place that has a bulletin board, and just kind of put those cards and or stickers up if you have the opportunity. We're going to try to do more neighborhood things, maybe have an open house where we actually contact people in the neighborhood, have an open house. We are the initial stop for the Volker Homes Tour this year, which is in May. So that is really cool. We were pretty excited that they asked us to do that. So they're going to start here. Tickets will be here. We can sell some concessions. But more importantly, we're going to have people coming in our building that we can tell them about not only our building and the history of our building, but about Oasis. And so that's a pretty cool opportunity that we have. We're getting a new banner because if you've seen our old one, everybody hates it. It's pretty bad. That last part didn't quite happen, but was probably a good thing, because if we would have advertised Forest any more than we did, we would have not had seats for everybody. So yeah, feedback. So where it says feedback, that's just things that, ideas that popped up. So we are going to do a pub crawl. We are going to do a 5K. Yeah, we did get more signage, so that's done. And care response. So care response is basically what care response does is not only do they make referrals to people that might need some kind of assistance, which, we have Google, so it's probably not that important, but we do have a fund for some things, for emergencies. But mostly it's, if you know somebody who has had surgery or had somebody die or is retiring or had a baby or whatever, let Care Response know, because we send cards, and depending on the situation, we might send flowers or whatever. So make sure if you know somebody that fits that, to contact Care Response, because that's the only way they know, because unless they know the person personally, they might not know these things are going on. So But we also, Care Response also does, we have signs. So, if somebody's feeling down, we can take signs and put them in their yard just saying somebody's thinking about you, and that's kind of cool. Greeters, that's kind of an ongoing, not really much to do with that. Al's taking over that since that was Russ's job. Community groups, also pretty much not much to do on that. Justine is now in charge of that, though. She took over for Julie Manning. So community groups are going strong right now. Building maintenance, that's a big one. So those are all the goals that we have to finish what the things we need to do on the building. Some of it's done. We actually had a big rush before our anniversary party, and we got a lot of things done. If you haven't been in the basement, go down and check it out because it's unrecognizable. And volunteer management. So right now, Kat is our volunteer management, and we are going to add another person in that position. They will have separate jobs. And so we're really looking for someone to take that position so that they can help her out. But otherwise, those are the kind of the things that we're trying to make sure that we're doing. Some of them are done, and some of them we need help on. Okay, and these are the goals of the board. We plan the sexual harassment training is going to be in June. No, yes, end of June for recruit volunteers. And everybody that's on a committee will need to try to make that training. If not, they're gonna have to probably make it up later. Before coffee break, I just want to put a shout out there that all of the committees that you've seen listed, I don't care if this is your first time here or your 100th, millionth time here, all these committees need help. So if you see anything on there that seems interesting to you, let somebody know and we can walk you through it on how much a commitment it is or how much it's not. If you go online to the Facebook private page, there's a tab, and I think the tab for that may be under files, and it has all of the volunteer committees listed, what the requirements are, how much time is invested, what you actually have to do. And every committee has something that you can be as little or as much involved as you want. I mean, every little thing helps. I think that's it. I hope that was super entertaining for you. And don't forget that there is a second chance auction going on today too. And yeah, that's it. Thank you. Next time I'll pick something more interesting.
That was very exciting. Oh, I do like the idea of a stage rail because my fans are always rushing the stage trying to, I mean, it's a good idea. I think all I'm going to do now is say, go get coffee. So try to meet somebody new, talk to somebody, and get to know each other. Welcome back, everybody. All right, do I just click on this, Jason? I'm not. Coffee break. All right. Oh, I do have just a couple of more announcements. I know you guys love announcements. The library, due to your generous contributions, is overflowing. So if you want a book, feel free to come and take it. You do not have to return it, give it to a friend, whatever. Another thing I want to mention about fundraising, a lot of you guys probably work at companies that have matching funds, so if you could take advantage of the matching funds, make sure when you do that, I believe we're a 501c3 as an educational, so don't mark religious. That would help us out a lot. Well, let's see. Please welcome ffortissiMO back to the stage. It's all yours, guys.
Thank you. We're really grateful for Oasis for having us here. So, my name is Austin. I'm the board president of ffortissiMO. I also usually play, but I got to flap my arms today. So just wanted to talk a little bit about us. You know, from our intro, you know, we all love making music, and so we needed a space to do it that was just fun and allowed us to be ourselves. And so that's really kind of how we got here. It started with 6 of us, and there's a couple people missing, but now we've grown almost 90% in 2 years, so it's exciting. Coming up, we've got a performance in Raytown. So on April 19th is their Extravaganza, and so we're going to be playing music there. And then you can find us at the Zoo 2 Saturdays in May, May 3rd and May 24th. So we're playing there, and then we'll be we got the Pride Parade coming up, and National Make Music Day is on June 21st. It's a Saturday this year, thankfully. So you'll catch us around the city doing that. And then I guess, you know, we like to curate our music to kind of fit a theme, and so, you know, it's the first 2 songs we played, Popular and Defying Gravity, obviously from the movie Wicked, or the play. But really, kind of the meaning behind that is, you know, that play is about being othered, right? And so, as a LGBT group, we often feel that, and so it has meaning for us. But you know, it's about overcoming all that, and so that's what we got. And then we're gonna play. This next week's play is Wellerman, and then the Wellerman Boogie. You might know it from the Tiki Talkie. And then at the end, we're gonna have some audience participation with that song, but I'll save that. So here is Wellerman Boogie, and feel free, we've got buttons down here. We've got another QR code for our website, and then there are also buttons on the table outside the doors there. So Jill made these buttons, so please take them.
Please take them.
Please take them. Thank you.
So last summer was my first time to volunteer at Camp Quest, and that was the most requested camp song for these kids. And I did not know that sea chanties were that popular with kids, but they love that stuff. All right, now that brings us to our main speaker. Let's see, Barry Crow. Oh, I could turn around. Well, I was going to get to that. All right. Our program is designed to generate conversation and engage our powers of reason, not as a forum to start debates. The following presentation has been prepared by our speaker and not by Kansas City Oasis. Please respect the views of our speaker, and if you have any questions, a question and answer portion will follow as time allows. Barry, also known as Strawberry when performing as a musician, is a non-binary and autistic musician local to the Kansas City area. They are passionate about mental health and human rights, and this reflects in their music and extends beyond it as well. Their goal is to connect with others and help them feel less alone. Barry will be discussing some terms related to gender and sexuality, their experiences, and some history of trans people and gender roles, and will provide allyship and resources. And it says here, we're here, we've been here, and we're here to stay, so we're glad that they're here. Oh, there you are.
Hello, everyone. So my name is Barry Crow, and as they said, I'm normally a musician, but this is something that I'm really passionate about, especially given the current political climate, everything that's going on, and the fact that according to the government, I don't exist anymore. And so I really want to talk about this, and here's this little clicker. And thank you all for being out here today. So here's my presentation. I'm going to give you a little bit of an outline. So first, I'm going to talk about the difference between gender and biological sex. I'm going to talk about pronouns and sexuality. I'm going to give some definitions, terms, and examples from my own experience as well. And then I'm going to talk about intersectionality and how gender intersects with other identities and how that impacts different communities. There is going to be a few serious topics here and there, and I will give a trigger warning in advance for people who may be sensitive to these topics. Then I'm going to highlight different communities like Anishinaabe and the Na. I'm going to talk about some queer people throughout history and how they've shaped history. And then I'm going to talk about the pink triangle and how it has shaped views on gender. And for those who don't know, the pink triangle was used during the Holocaust to identify queer prisoners. So again, that is a topic that may be triggering for some, so please be aware of that. I will say something before we go on to that next slide. And at the end, I'm going to talk about some ways you can be active, ways you can help, and I'm going to have a QR code with all of the sources and things that I use on my research, as well as like the resources I include at the end. That will also be in the QR code. So if you are, feel like you missed something and you want to go back to it, it's going to be in the QR code. You can look it up at the end. So what is gender, and how is it different from biological sex? So gender usually refers to socially constructed roles, behaviors, expressions, and identities, and usually these are about preconceived notions about biological sex. So it usually comes along with a set of culturally invented expectations, so like women are caretakers, men as providers, so men, women, non-binary people, those are all examples of genders. Sex refers to the biological differences such as male or female, includes anatomic sex. It also includes intersex people, which don't fall into that binary male or female, which binary just means two. So male, female is a binary. It also includes invisible characteristics such as your genes and hormones, and we're going to talk about that in the next slide as well. So intersex people are not always trans. Intersex refers to people whose genitals, chromosomes, or reproductive organs don't fit into a male and female sex binary. So their genitals might not match their reproductive organs, they may have traits of both, their physical features may be different. So there is over 30 variations of intersex people that is outside male and female. Intersex surgery is often performed on infants and toddlers, and this is something that can cause unnecessary health complications. And that's something that the intersex community has started talking about recently. Imagine that you're going through your life and you're having these health complications only to find out that the reason for these complications is because of a medically unnecessary surgery that was performed on you before you were able to consent to these types of things. So a lot of this community is requesting that new parents of intersex babies do not get any gender assigning surgeries because they're really unnecessary, and it not only causes dysphoria later on in life, but it can also cause health complications. So fun fact, about 2% of people in the world are intersex. So if you've seen a redheaded person, you've probably also seen an intersex person, even if they're not aware of it. So what does it mean to be trans or transgender? So transgender, as a definition, just refers to someone whose gender identity does not match their birth sex or sex assigned at birth. So this could include a trans woman, it could include a non-binary person, essentially anyone who does not identify with that gender assigned at birth. Cisgender is not a slur, it just refers to the opposite. So someone who does identify with their sex assigned at birth. I'm also going to talk about some terms. So this first one is dead name. So a dead name is specifically when a trans person decides that they're, well, not decides, it's when the trans person's given name causes them intense dysphoria. So it's not just the birth name of a trans person, it's the birth name when it causes this intense discomfort and dysphoria. Not every trans person has a dead name, and some people will continue to use their birth name forever, and some people choose to change that name. It's really up to them. Also, another term that gets used is dead naming. So to dead name someone is to use that name when they have specifically requested that you use a different name. And I'll talk more about that in a little bit. So non-binary is an umbrella term that refers to someone who does not fall under binary categories such as man or woman. So non-binary can kind of be, there's trans, there's non-binary, and then there's other identities underneath that umbrella. Not every non-binary person identifies as transgender, and that's important to remember, that we don't put labels on people, we ask them how they feel, and we accept that. Also, not every intersex person will identify as non-binary, but a lot of people do. That's because, again, it's hard to find something that fits when you don't even fit into that male and female binary. So agender refers to someone who feels they have no gender. So this falls under the non-binary category. Some people use gender-neutral pronouns like myself, they, them. Some people use neopronouns, and some people just prefer not to be referred to at all. So it's up to that person. Bigender refers to someone who feels like two genders at the same time. And multigender is similar. It refers to someone who feels like multiple genders. So this could be man and woman. It could be woman and non-binary person. It could be woman and agender even. That's more gender fluid. So gender fluid refers to someone whose gender fluctuates depending on the day, the environment, or other factors. I identify as non-binary, but I also identify as gender fluid. And so for me, my feeling of gender kind of changes depending on certain situations. And so a lot of times I want to be seen, as feminine, but I also want to be seen as masculine at the same time and be connected with people who also identify with femininity and masculinity. And so gender fluid people, again, they may use gender neutral pronouns like I do, or they may use all pronouns, they may pick one or two, or they may say, hey, I want to be referred to with he, him pronouns today. Really, you don't have to know every pronoun. just the ones of the people you know. So xenogender is also an umbrella term underneath the non-binary umbrella. So it's a term referring to non-binary genders that cannot be described with words such as feminine or masculine, and instead are related to concepts such as animals or abstract concepts. So this can be related to neurodivergence. A lot of the autistic community, we feel like we don't identify with traditional gender norms, and so this can kind of bleed into feeling like something else, like xenogender. So it can be related to neurodivergence, animals, abstract concepts. And another thing is a lot of people identifying with xenogenders will face more discrimination than other trans or even non-binary people, because people tend to think it's a joke. That's where the "I identify as an attack helicopter" joke came from. And it's really, it's not like that. And we don't necessarily have to inherently understand something to accept it. So a few other terms. These are things that trans people use to identify with other trans people. So AFAB means assigned female at birth, and ABAB means assigned male at birth. This does not necessarily mean biologically female and biologically male, because again, that includes intersex people that are assigned a gender, and it also can include trans people who have undergone medical transitions. And you can change your biological gender with medical transitions. So other terms, transmasculine or transmasc can mean assigned female at birth. Transfeminine or transfemme can also mean assigned male at birth. Again, these are just terms that trans people use to identify with each other. So these first few sections are a little bit long, and we'll go a little bit quicker towards the end. I think of this as like your crash course on being transgender. So I also wanted to include this graph up here, so that we've got the trans umbrella, we've got trans women, and trans men are binary trans. Then we have non-binary people and all of those different identities, so gender fluid, gender queer, xenogender also fits under that umbrella. Dysphoria. So dysphoria is a sense of unease that a person may have because of a mismatch between their biological sex and their gender identity. This can be so intense that it can lead to depression and anxiety and have a harmful impact on your daily life. Wait a second, I'm going to drink some water. So some of the things that can cause this type of dysphoria are things like misgendering or mistitling. So when I'm on the phone on hold and they finally get to me and then they ma'am me a million times, it gets a little bit tiring. Dead naming for me, this one is the worst one for me. And for other people, they have more dysphoria with other things. But this is something. So I'm gonna tell a story. And there was one time where I was getting ready to perform at an open mic. And I signed up under Strawberry, which is the name that I perform under. And I left my phone/wallet in the restroom. Well, somebody brings it up to the front, and they find my driver's license, which still had my dead name at the time. And they read it out over the microphone. And it sent me into a panic because, I signed up, I hear my name, but it's not my name. And I think that somehow they're calling me up to perform under my dead name. And so I had, being autistic as well, I had a pretty big reaction to it, and I went mute. I was not really able to speak. I didn't end up performing that night, and it was really really negatively impacted me because I have this fear of people finding out my dead name. Not because I think that my friends are going to use it, but because the only people who use my dead name are people who don't respect my identity. And so this can cause a lot of anxiety surrounding my dead name. And so, I also have dysphoria over my voice. Other people have similar dysphoria as well, or dysphoria over their body. There is some days I'm tempted to just stop performing altogether unless I'm able to change my voice and make it deeper. So also being excluded or even included on the basis of someone's perceived gender. So I don't really want to be invited to a women's retreat, but one of the things that was really frustrating growing up was being excluded because I was considered a girl. And I didn't really understand why there was such a big difference between girls and boys and why they had to be separate and why they liked different things, because I liked everything, you know? So on the opposite end, we have gender euphoria. And these are experiences that can make it so much easier to face queer phobia and other types of discrimination. So you feel joy or elated when your gender expression aligns with your identity. So, you know, these are also things that you can just feel individually for yourself when you have really, you know, you have nice clothes, you have nice hair. It can also happen from other people whenever they gender you correctly. Like when a stranger refers to me using they, them pronouns, or they use masculine terms when they talk to me and they're like, hey man, how's it going? You know, those are the things that really give me gender euphoria because it makes me feel seen. Being included in community with others of your same gender and gender identity. So like being included with the guys when they do something, being included with the girls, but one of the things that makes me feel the most included is being with other gender queer people, or just other queer people in general. I feel so accepted. So what are pronouns and why should we use them? So pronouns, or gender personal pronouns, or personal gender pronouns, are the set of pronouns that an individual uses to reflect their gender identity. So some examples that we use in our daily lives would be she, her, they, them, he, him, even it, its. So, you know, when you say, oh, this person dropped their wallet, we all automatically use gender neutral pronouns in our daily lives. We just don't use them as intentionally as we could. One example of a famous person who uses it, its pronouns is actually Willow. So if I'm talking about it, I would say, I love Willow. One of my favorite songs of its is Symptom of Life, or something like that. And so you just use that as you would. It's not, if someone specifically wants to have those pronouns, it's not dehumanizing. It's what they prefer. Neopronouns. So neopronouns are similar, and they are personal pronouns beyond he, she, and they. So neopronouns are preferred by some non-binary people who feel that conventional pronouns don't accurately represent their gender. So some of them are like ze, zer, em, they, fair. They tend to follow typical grammatical rules. We just insert their own. So an example would be, the teacher graded their paper today and Z got an A. So again, we just use it just like a regular pronoun. Again, you don't have to know all of the pronouns ever, just the ones of the people that you know. So ask your friends what are your pronouns and practice them in your daily life. Sexuality. So bisexual, we're going to go through this a little quickly because I'm sure some of you know what these terms already are. Bisexual refers to someone who experiences attraction to two or more genders. Pansexual refers to someone who experiences attraction to multiple genders. If you were to ask me the difference between bisexual and pansexual, I wouldn't be able to give you a clear answer, because some people it's due to their preference, some people it's due to the number of genders, and some people just say that they like one flag more than the other. So really these terms are pretty interchangeable, and it's just based on however they identify. So lesbian refers to a woman or also a non-binary person who experiences attraction to women or feminine identifying people or other non-binary person. Another word for this is sapphic. Gay or homosexual. Gay refers to someone who experiences attraction to the same gender. It can also be men who experience attraction to other men or masculine identifying people. Achillean is a similar term to sapphic. It's just not used as much. Gay can also be used as an umbrella term, like the word queer, to refer to anybody in the LGBTQIA+ community. Some people prefer, they were just like, I'm gay, to just kind of identify with other people. Some people use the word queer. I also like to use the word queer, but I'm also aware that this is a word that can be upsetting to some people. Queer is reclaimed, so it wasn't always used to identify with people and used for community. It was used to harm people. And so that's something to be aware of when using these terms, especially younger people who use these terms and who aren't aware of the impact it could have on people who it was used against negatively. So asexuality. Asexual is a similar umbrella term, kind of like non-binary, that refers to people with little to no sexual attraction. So this is unrelated to romantic attraction or libido. It's not related to the actions that someone does, it's related to the attraction. Aromantic, similar, refers to someone with little to no romantic attraction. People can have romantic attraction without sexual attraction and vice versa. And then the last two terms, allosexual refers to someone who does experience sexual attraction. Alloromantic refers to someone who does experience romantic attraction. And you can have any combination of these. You can be asexual and aromantic, or aroace, and not experience attraction to anybody. You can be aromantic but allosexual, and you don't experience romantic attraction, but you do experience sexual attraction, or the opposite. You can be asexual, but still be alloromantic and still experience romantic attraction. So people will have all types of relationships, and people who are aro and ace may still be in what's called a queer platonic relationship, right? They don't experience attraction to each other, but they still live together, they make financial decisions together. So, you know, these aren't strict. If you feel this way, you can't have any type of relationship. You know, these are just how people experience attraction, and they can have relationships or not. So I wanted to also show this ACE umbrella. There are different identities under ACE. My particular identity is demisexual, which means that I don't experience sexual attraction without an emotional bond to someone. So, you know, growing up, people are like, oh, they're so hot. I'm like, what? What? I genuinely thought that hot just meant really pretty up until like a year ago. So I come to find out, no, it does not. So, you know, these are words that we use to identify with each other. There's also gray asexual, which kind of means only experiencing attraction under certain circumstances. So there's many different ways to be ace. Some people are sex favorable, some people are sex averse. So there's a lot of different ways to be. Okay, I'm going to try to get through this quickly. So intersectionality is the acknowledgement that discrimination and systems of oppression are interconnected with different identities and experiences. And we need to consider anything and everything that can marginalize people: gender, race, class, sexual orientation, disability. So this graph is inspired by Kimberly Crenshaw's TED Talk on intersectionality. We have, you know, we've got queerphobia, racism, ableism, sexism. And it's also important to remember that there are many more invisible lines here, and many different ways where people can experience discrimination, right? So rather than we're just experiencing sexism or just experiencing racism, when you intersect those two things, you experience them both at the same time, and that can make things a lot worse. So racism, homophobia, transphobia, other forms of discrimination, they often overlap and they're interconnected, and they create multiple pathways of oppression, usually systemically induced. So again, we're all interconnected. There are different people with different identities. So autistic people are more likely to be sexually and gender diverse, and some studies show that around 25% of gender diverse people could be autistic. Again, there's a lot of us that are undiagnosed. 40% of LGBTQ plus adults in the United States are people of color, including 12% who identify as Black. So if you meet a Black person, you could also be meeting a queer person. If you meet an autistic person, you could also be meeting someone else, you know. It's important to remember that. People with intersecting identities face discrimination on multiple fronts, and it can be really difficult to explain to people who don't experience that. So discrimination in medicine, it can be really difficult to be respected when you have multiple different marginalized identities at the same time. So for example, 10% of LGBTQ people of color had a doctor refuse to see them because of their sexual orientation, and 19% had a doctor who was visibly uncomfortable due to their sexual orientation, versus 4% and 11% of white queer respondents reporting the same. Among transgender people of color, 68% reported negative or discriminatory treatment from a doctor or healthcare provider, versus 27% of white transgender respondents. 29% of transgender people of color reported that a doctor used harsh or abusive language while treating them, and 38% reported that a doctor was rough or physically abusive, versus 8% and 5% of white transgender respondents reporting the same. So up next is a graph, and this graph is kind of showing the differences in, so this is from the Williams Institute. It's about queer adults in the United States in 2022, and it's showing the different types of discrimination. So we've got, the food insecurity, unemployment, low-income housing, and so the orange represents people of color, the white represents, the blue represents white people, and the lightest color represents men, and then the color kind of in the middle represents women of the medium darkness. So throughout all of these, you can kind of see that women are experiencing more discrimination. And among all of these, women of color are receiving the most. They're the highest number. So this just kind of goes to show that when you have those multiple pathways, that it's kind of invisible until you see it put on a graph like this. That kind of discrimination, you don't see it if it doesn't happen to you. So the Stonewall riots, which is kind of what sparked Pride, made it clear that disproportionate violence towards Black and brown LGBTQ folks is normalized, and that the criminal justice system protects those with more social privilege than those at risk of violence. Racial stereotypes such as Black men being aggressive, dangerous, or even simply more agile than other races are harmful and contribute to violence and incarceration of people of color, queer people included. So, even youth in the justice systems, juvenile prisons, 1 in 5 of youth in these systems identify as LGBTQ, and 85% of them are youth of color. So they are severely overrepresented in juvenile prison systems, and they shouldn't be. So up next is going to be a little bit more serious, again, talking about violence towards specific people. When I talk about intersectionality, it's important for me to recognize the people whose lives have been cut short. So Dime Doe was a transgender woman who was lured to a remote area and killed. And O'Shea Sibley was a gay man who was killed while just dancing at a gas station. And these are not isolated incidents. They don't happen. It's not just this one time. It didn't just happen once. These continue to happen, and they continue to impact marginalized people every day, especially people of color. These are people who will never get to share their experiences again, never get to share their joy with others. And we get to move on while their families are stuck. Their families have to live without them. And I don't think we should move on as if these things are normal. We should be outraged, and this should push us to move and push us into action. And I'm going to talk about some ways to do that towards the end. So Two-Spirit. Two-Spirit is an umbrella term similar to non-binary that includes a multitude of identities beyond male and female. It's not just a third gender category. It's not the same as non-binary. It's very specific to North American Indigenous groups. So this is a quote from the Canadian Museum for Human Rights. Across Indigenous North America, some people lived their lives as neither men nor women. Some were seen as combining, even transcending, masculine and feminine characteristics. They performed important social roles, held knowledge, led ceremonies, reared children, married, and lived in same-sex relationships. Some of them even did sex education, and they were really important and normal in their communities up until Western colonization. So the Anishinaabe, which is the Ojibwe spelling, the Anishinaabe refers to a group of culturally and linguistically related First Nations that live in both Canada and the United States. This includes the Ojibwe, the Chippewa, the Ottawa, the Potawatomi, the Saulteaux, Mississauga, other First Nations. So Anishinaabe-Moan is a gender-neutral language, and they have many gender terms beyond male and female or man and woman. And I wanted to include a video today by Geelan that talks about these things, because I think they will do a much better job of it than me. There are a lot of different terms, and this is not to say you need to remember them all, but I just want you to be aware that this is their tradition. This is their culture. We are not the only ones that have traditional gender. So I'm going to play this video.
Bushu Giwaden Indigenous Cause. Hi, my name is Giwaden, which means North Wind in Ojibwe, and I want to teach you some gender terms in Anishinaabe-Moan. Anishinaabe-Moan, my people's language, is gender neutral, and we have numerous gender terms, and this is traditional. This is language that our people would have used and currently do use. Of course, there are influences of Christianity and colonialism on our communities, and yeah, this is decolonization work, learning these terms. Anini is man. Ikwe is woman. Dago kwewa is woman spirit within a man. Dago aniniwa is man spirit within a woman. Indigo kwe is like a woman. Indigo anini is like a man. Ikwe wadisa has the nature of a woman. Bakani and nadisa is their actions are different and good connotations. A aniniwe is a gay masculine male. A ikwewa is a feminine lesbian. Yeye kwe, ago kwe, has the experience of a woman. Inini wadisa has the nature of a man. Inini konye is dressed like a man. Ikwe konye is dressed like a woman. This beautiful infographic was created by Owanagishik Bruce, and the translations are by Kai Pyle, Mani Dumaingen, and Charles Lippert. Miigwech.
Okay, so I'm going to show this graph that they used in this next screen. Also zooming in on it a little bit. So here we can see that their traditional gender, they have had a lot of terms for many years that describe people of not just masculine and feminine, not just man and woman. So when we think of traditional gender, it's not just this strict binary that Western communities have pushed onto other groups of people. So again, what do we think of when we think of traditional gender roles or traditional families? We might think of a mom, a dad, and then you have kids. Well, for the Na people, this is a little different. So the Na is a Musuo community in southwest China. And for them, their traditional gender roles don't really look like a nuclear family. Their society is matrilineal, meaning that property is passed down to the women and the children take the mother's surname. Their marriages are not arranged by their family. They choose their partners through love. They're free to visit each other in their family homes, and a lot of times will only make their relationship public when having children. So divorce also carries little stigma within this community. People are free to seek outside relationships or to end unsatisfactory ones. So the married couples often don't live together 24/7. Children stay with their mothers. Men take care of their birth families during the day and then come and take care of their children and partners in the evening. So they kind of live in multiple households, and it works really well that way. They're a tight-knit community, and despite not living together, their dads are very active in their kids' lives. They make financial contributions. They interact with their day-to-day lives. They're part of each other's lives all the time. It just doesn't look like this traditional mom, dad, strictly, they live in one house together and they leave their parents behind. It's not like that. They continue being with their families, both their birth families and their new families. So it's important to remember that even with traditional cisgender societies, gender roles can look very different from Western societies. So now we're going to talk about queer people in history. So Dr. Qian-Sheng Wu, also known as the First Lady of Physics. She was a lesbian physicist who made groundbreaking contributions in the field of nuclear physics. She was a Chinese immigrant who came to the United States in 1936 and did so much. Her work was crucial in disproving the law of conservation of parity, which had been, up to that point, considered a fundamental law of physics. I did look up what the conservation of parity, or the law of conservation of parity was, but I could not tell you what it is. I am not a physicist, but she was awesome. So then we have Lynn Conway. So Lynn Conway was a transgender woman. She was a computer scientist and electrical engineer known for her work in the field of microelectronics. She was facing discrimination in the field, especially with it being a male-dominated field, and eventually became a trans rights activist and publicized her transition journey. And this was not until, I think, the late 1900s that she finally publicized her journey with this. Then we have Lorraine Vivian Hansberry. So Lorraine Vivian Hansberry was a lesbian playwright and the first Black woman ever to have a play performed on Broadway. Her most well-known play, A Raisin in the Sun, highlighted discrimination faced by Black Americans living in Chicago in the early to mid-1900s. She also talked about discrimination against gay people and from her own experiences. Oh, it's not letting me go to the next slide. It's stuck. Let me try that. I might need help. Sorry about this. Anyway, essentially what it's going to say is that, okay, I'll just do it on the, sure, there we go. So,
Nope, not for.
nope, okay.
That's fine.
This is the one. So thank you so much. Art influences people, and when different people are represented in art, it opens our minds, right? We don't often see, a Black, Mexican, transgender woman represented in books and media because people forget that people with multiple intersecting identities exist. Well, they do exist, they have existed, they always will exist. So next, we have William Dorsey Swann, who was known as the first drag queen, or the first queen of drag. So William Dorsey Swann was born just a few years before slaves were freed, and is the first known person to identify as a queen of drag, as well as leading the first queer resistance in the United States. He had very little support, and his ideas were not very widespread at the time, but his efforts paved the way for Black gay men, as well as other queer people and activists like Marsha P. Johnson, who sparked Stonewall. So the word drag actually comes from the term grand rag, which is an old term for masquerade balls, or at least it's suspected that that's where the term drag comes from. So this next part, we're going to get into the pink triangle, and again, if this is something that can trigger you, please be aware of that. So the pink triangle was a symbol used in concentration camps during the Holocaust to identify queer prisoners, specifically gay men and transgender women. So people who deviate from traditional Western ideas of masculinity. They often received harsher treatment, more difficult labor. They were included in medical experiments and tests, including social experiments, forcing them to have sex with lesbian prisoners. So again, this is kind of a very slightly more horrifying version of conversion therapy. It's, oh, we can force you into this and you will change. That's not the case. So after the war, rather than being freed, they were sentenced to prison for up to 20 more years because the laws in Germany at the time still said that it's illegal to be gay or trans. So they were not freed at the end of the war. For centuries, the pink triangle was seen as a strong and manly color, with blue being a dainty feminine color, like in depictions of the Virgin Mary and her blue robes. The use of the pink triangle to identify deviations from nuclear families and traditional masculinity in Nazi Germany is what sparked the reversal of pink and blue symbolism. So it kind of switched this pink from being masculine to pink being feminine. So colors don't have gender. We put that onto colors and say, I think it should be this gender. When the AIDS crisis began in the 1970s and 80s, the six-person collective who founded the Silence Equals Death project used the pink triangle, but inverted it to its upright position. They needed a really well-known symbol to rally other queer people because they were dying by the thousands. And the government didn't really do anything to address this crisis. What little they did caused increased discrimination and homophobic health policies. Treatment for AIDS was not widely available, especially for marginalized communities, and PrEP was not approved until 2012, which PrEP is preventative care for HIV and AIDS. Marginalized communities, as always, were disproportionately affected. Not only were treatments not available or widely available, but how are you going to ask for help when you're someone who is labeled as a sexual predator just for being who you are? So, it was difficult for all these communities, but we fought for what we have today. And I really hope that we continue fighting and that other people are willing to help and continue helping. So, now that you know about trans people, our histories, our struggles, you want to help. How can you help? So we need straight and cisgender allies to stand up for us now more than ever. It can be little things like, this is actually might seem little, but it's actually really big. Introducing yourself with your pronouns or including it in your emails and bios. This sets the precedent that it is normal to state your pronouns or to ask for others, and it takes a little bit less pressure off of trans people when they do it if all of the cisgender people do it as well. Correct other people casually when they misgender someone. Don't make a big deal out about it. It's, can you ask Barry if she wants to, it's them. oh, okay, can you ask Barry if they want to? And that's all you do. You just move on. When you correct yourself, you don't have to say, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm really trying hard. I just can't get it. And, because this puts the pressure on the trans person to then comfort you for getting it wrong rather than just fixing your mistake. You move on. It's not a big deal. Don't draw a lot of attention to it. That's all you got to do. You can also read books and TV containing queer characters, and I include some of those in the next few slides. Another big thing that you can do to help is to go to protests and support marginalized communities while there. This is so, so important because if you are someone who is not at risk for being harmed for your appearance, whether that's your skin color or looking visibly queer, whatever it is so, so important that you go to these. There are protests happening all over the country. On the 5th of every month, I will also include in the QR code, there is a link to look up some of those protests and to be a little bit more active in these types of things. So, we're not alone. There's actually people everywhere, all over the country, that also care and that want to make a difference. Practice your loved one's pronouns, or practice a famous person's if you don't know a trans person yet. So if you want to get used to using they, them pronouns and you don't know any non-binary people yet, you can just practice someone famous that you might know about. Learn more about queer people and expose yourself to people in places you normally wouldn't. Right? When you expose yourself to different things, your mind starts to open up a little bit more. You're like, oh, I didn't really think about it this way. And you start to see queer people just as they are, as people. We're just people. Call your representatives about queerphobic policies, and all of this advice can be used for other types of discrimination as well if you would like to help. I will also, in the next slide, there is an app that you can use to call your representatives. As always, check in with your queer friends if you have them. Ask them how you can support them, because we're really struggling right now with all of the anti-trans, anti-LGBTQ laws that are being passed right now. It's really scary. It's really scary being queer. So this is the 5 Calls app. Sorry, losing words. So this allows you to track calls that you've already made and track how you've contacted them. So it gives you prompts. It tells you what your representatives are when you put in like your address or your zip code. So this is super, super helpful to kind of be active. If you're like, I don't know where to start, I have no idea what to say, I don't know who to call, this is your place to start. You can also donate directly to mutual aid efforts for people trying to meet their basic needs, or to organizations like Point of Pride. So Point of Pride is one of few organizations, the only one that I currently know about anyway, that donates 100% of their proceeds to gender-affirming care. So 100% of all money that goes to them goes directly to trans people who need gender-affirming care. You can also support local queer-owned businesses and musicians. Like Inglewood Arts, for example. This one is over in Independence. They're in a remodeled medical building. They host live performances and presentations by queer and other people. At the very front is an art shop where you can find handmade glassware, jewelry, other artwork. It's really awesome. I love it there. I've performed there multiple times, so I'm a little bit partial to them, but they're amazing. This one is one that I picked from a website for queer-owned businesses local to KC, which is also included in the QR code. Red Hair Leather, I have not been there personally, but they have beautiful-looking bags, harnesses, wallets, leather goods. And then we have Vibe KC, and Vibe KC is actually where I got my haircut like 2 weeks ago. And they were very, very awesome. They did a great job. I felt comfortable the whole time I was there. It was a little bit hard to find at first, but once you get there, it's not so bad. And again, I also have a QR code with these resources listed throughout. So some books. This is one of my favorites, Be Gay, Do Comics. This is a collection of it's a collection of artwork and comics from queer people around the world. So it will make you laugh, it will make you cry, and everything in between. It's beautiful, it's amazing. Tons of different types of artwork as well. So even if you just want to look at the art, it's beautiful. If you want to learn more about they, them pronouns, or if you're trying to help a family member understand you better, this is a great book. I know Be Gay, Do Comics is at the Johnson County Library. I don't think this book is, but if I could find an extra copy, I am planning on donating it to the Johnson County Library. So it's a short book just explaining how to use they, them pronouns, how to practice them, etc. Speak Up is one of my favorites. It's more of a family-friendly book. It's about an autistic girl who's secretly a musician online, and her best friend is a non-binary person. So they don't really feature them a whole lot. They're kind of like they're not the main character, but one of the main characters. So it's a bit of a way to include a subtle reference to queer people without that necessarily being the main focus. And lastly, we have Genderqueer, which is essentially a book about gender identity, and it includes someone who uses EM pronouns. So if you're curious about EM pronouns, which is a neo-pronoun, this will kind of help you learn how it's used, practice it, and whatnot. So thank you so much for coming out here and listening to my presentation. I can't believe they let me do this. Thank you. So I'm not really a speaker. I'm more of a musician. If you want to follow my Instagram, it's strawberry_n_bees. I go by Strawberry when I perform musically. And this QR code, if you want to scan it, this has all of the things that I talked about today and more. So things that didn't get to make it into this presentation are in there. And at the top is the resource list. So sources and research is at the bottom, but at the top is resources, books, even things that I didn't include in this presentation. If you have any suggestions for queer media that you want me to include in this, let me know, because I can still add things. It's just a Google document. And I'm sorry, the sources are not organized in any particular order. They're just, here's what I've got. So anyway, thank you so much for coming out, and thank you, Casey Oasis, for hosting me.
So, thank you so much. We're running a little short on time, so we're not going to have time for question and answers.
Shoot.
You can get with them afterwards, and if they're going to be here. If you have any questions. We're going to hand out, and I hope you all paid attention, we're going to start a little quiz here in a minute, and we'll go over it and test you all. So see if you were paying attention. Questions? No. While our musicians are coming back up on stage, I want to remind everyone that the Kansas City Oasis is a 501c3 nonprofit run solely on donations and volunteers. If you like the topic and the music today, please consider donating through kcoasis.org/donate or by Venmo. Reoccurring monthly donations are the most helpful. And welcome back to the stage for ffortissiMO.
So this song's going to need audience participation. While we're getting set, we are going to play the SpongeBob SquarePants theme song. So I will give you a fun little cue, which is just going to be pointing back, and then I think you know the words. I don't think I need to tell you. So watch for your cue, and then everybody is a musician today.
So after the program today, you can join us for lunch to continue the conversation at Tower Tavern. They're at 401 East 31st Street, Kansas City, Missouri. Please help keep the area clean. If you see any trash, pick that up and help us keep the building clean. There are many volunteer opportunities for Oasis each week, so make sure to check the descriptions attached to the private page to sign up. Next week on 420, our featured speaker will be April Hatch of Cannabinoids. Our music. All right, an enthusiast. Nice. Our musical guest will be Chris Hudson, and Jill Beals will provide our community moment. We want to thank again this week's presenters, Barry Crow and Sara, the musicians from ffortissiMO, and thank you for being here or tuning in online. See you all next week.